Therapy Chat Podcast, episode 158.
This is the Therapy Chat Podcast with Laura Reagan, LCSW-C. The information shared in this podcast is not a substitute for seeking help from a licensed mental health professional. And now, here's your host, Laura Reagan, LCSW-C.
Therapy Chat Podcast wouldn't exist without the support of its listeners. If you'd like to become a member, please go to patreon.com/therapychat. By making a $1 per month donation, you can help Therapy Chat keep going over the long haul. Thank you for your support. Hi, welcome back to Therapy Chat. Today's episode is going to be a solo episode, just me talking. I wanted to catch up with you and share some information about what's been going on lately. To start off today's episode, I wanted to share with you two very short poems by a poet whose work I greatly admire. The poet's name is Nayyirah Waheed, and she has a published book of poetry called Salt, which is just incredible. I'm not sure if both of these poems come from Salt. I have the book, but there's so many poems in it. And when I was referencing for this episode, I could not put my hands on the book. It's at my office. But one of them I got from her Instagram page, and one I know is in Salt. And she has many poems which deeply resonate with me, but the first one I think I've shared on Therapy Chat before goes like this. And I said to my body softly, I want to be your friend. It took a long breath and replied, I have been waiting my whole life for this. And this second quote from Nayyirah Waheed, I'm not sure if it's from Salt, but I got it from her Instagram feed, which is at Nayyirah Waheed. It goes, be softer with you. You are a breathing thing, a memory to someone, a home to a life. I just think that's a beautiful, both of those are beautiful reminders that we disregard our bodies as if they're not important, or they're only important for how they look on the outside. But our body is what carries us through life. And I feel like I've gotten much better at respecting my body and being grateful for my health, but also thinking that I can neglect my body's health and it won't come back to haunt me. And I'm learning that that's not the case. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Some of you may have seen on social media that I've been talking about slowing down and needing to get back to focusing on self-care. Of course, self-care is a common theme here on Therapy Chat, and you've probably heard many episodes where I talk about self-care, including just last week when I talked with Lainey Smith. Lainey and I were talking about creating white space, and, she kind of talked about being forced to slow down in her life and to reevaluate how she wanted to spend her time because of some issues that had come up for her because of the pace that she was keeping. And now I'm in that boat too. It's funny because not that much has really changed, but my body is telling me that if I keep working so much without putting in more break time and more time for contemplative practices and stillness and being in nature and gentle movement and meditation and creativity and play and the things that nourish me, that my body is saying, I'm not going to keep working for you if you don't start doing a better job of taking care of me. And I've kind of known this for a while. I mean, I talk about self-care all the time with my clients and with you here on Therapy Chat. And I also see the effects of chronic stress on the people who sit with me in my office day in and day out. More and more, I'm seeing people talking about pain issues, autoimmune disorders, and fatigue, and, burnout shows up in a lot of different ways. The effects are emotional and physical. So I have been experiencing some effects of having my adrenals be pretty run down. And the symptoms weren't really severe enough for me to take them very seriously. But my holistic practitioners I work with were warning me that I needed to really attend to what my body was telling me. But since my body was letting me know in ways that weren't obvious and definitely kind of outside of what Western medicine would typically pick up as a problem, I didn't really think there was an urgent need to take action. So my acupuncturist mentioned to me recently, it's kind of ironic that she brought this up just a couple months ago. She said, when the universe is trying to tell you something, it starts out as a whisper. And then next you hear a normal speaking voice. And then there's a yell. And next your doorbell rings. And then there's banging on the door. And finally, a brick is thrown through the window. In other words, you can ignore your symptoms, but they are not going to get quieter. It's just the same as emotional symptoms, as we always talk about here on Therapy Chat. You can't ignore emotional symptoms and expect them to go away. They do what a child does when you ignore their demand for attention. They start out, fussing and maybe saying, mommy, mommy, and pulling on you a little bit, but it gets louder and louder the more you don't check what that child needs and take care of it. So I've been having some symptoms of having my adrenals be getting depleted. The whole idea of having a lot of stress in your life ever since childhood, chronic stress leads to high levels of adrenaline and cortisol in your body. You've heard about this so many times on Therapy Chat. We've talked about how this impacts long-term health. Gabor Mate talked about it. Kyle Davies talked about it. I've talked about it. The ACEs study talks about it. It's not new information. And people who have high levels of chronic stress tend to somehow experience certainly mental health effects throughout the lifespan, but often physical effects as well. And it's not necessarily connected together, but there are many chronic illnesses that are common in people who have had childhood trauma. So my body was showing signs of depleted adrenals through weight gain, exhaustion, or should I say fatigue? I wouldn't call it exhaustion, but I'm really good at just keeping on going even when I'm really tired. And I also consider myself someone who puts a lot of time into rest, relaxation, recovery. I take a lot of time off, but when I am working, I work really hard. And when I am working is much of the time, most of the time. And part of being a therapist is, the work you do is it involves thinking. And you can think about your work a lot when you're not actually working. It just comes into your mind as you're learning about something, and you're thinking about, oh, this client has that same situation. I wonder how I could approach that differently next time I meet with them, or I want to share this information with them. So, there's nothing wrong with that. But when your body is saying you need to take a break and you're ignoring it, it doesn't just stop telling you that. Eventually, it's going to say, all right, I'm going to make you not be able to work anymore. I'm going to force you to take a break. And I see this happen with people quite often. So again, there's no reason for myself to think that I would be any different. So I started having some bigger symptoms that I couldn't ignore. It made me realize that the fatigue that I've been dealing with and kind of just, sort of thinking was normal is something that I really need to pay attention to. And, weight gain is obviously it's more than how your body appears, but, it starts to make you feel more tired as well because you're pulling more weight around with you with every step you take. So I have kind of taken up a new approach to addressing these symptoms that are beginning to be far beyond a whisper, definitely more either the doorbell or someone's banging on my door to tell me to pause, pay attention, attend to what's needed, attend to what my body needs. And so what my holistic practitioners are telling me to do, it's pretty counterintuitive. Instead of, getting to the gym and working out harder, which is what, I've always done when I need to get my body back to health in terms of healthy weight. They say, move every day, walk, do yoga, do meditation, gentle exercise daily, and rest more and just listen to your body. So in addition to taking several supplements that I hope will help with the symptoms, which they're not so severe that they interfere with me being able to work, which is probably, I'm grateful for that. But, it's a mixed blessing because then I can, I'm not forced to take a break. So I'm going to try a different way, be more gentle with myself, and I'm taking breaks throughout the day. I'm going to yoga more frequently, and I'm practicing the restorative types of yoga like yin yoga, body balance yoga, yoga nidra, kundalini, not power yoga. Not that there's anything wrong with power yoga, but, the whole thing is to be gentle and help my body heal, not go high impact. I hope I'll be able to get back to my regular type of working out soon because while I love yoga, I also love kickboxing and boot camp type stuff and Zumba. Probably doing Zumba might be okay. I haven't tried. Just maybe go easy on the jumping. But another thing I'm doing is building breaks into my daily schedule. So I'm still seeing the same number of clients that I have been seeing, but I'm taking a lunch break every single day and I'm eating a very well-balanced lunch and being sure to eat breakfast. And I'm going to bed earlier. That seemed like something that would be really hard to do, but I really started doing that right away when these symptoms got severe enough to make them impossible for me to ignore. And, I've been getting at least 8 hours of sleep every night, and that sure feels great. I think before I was averaging about 6, and I thought that was okay. But, I also know that 8 is better, 8 or more. I've been meditating more often, and I'm trying to use Muse, which is like an assistive meditative thing that I have that helps make it more routine, but it's still tricky to keep up with it all. So my conversations with Lainey and with Robin Brickell recently really kind of tied right in with exactly what's happening with me. And it's funny that when I was talking with them, as much as I valued our conversations and I felt very deeply that what they were talking about was valuable, there was some kind of a disconnect between really taking it in for myself. And so, maybe that's why my body said, hey, you big hypocrite. You're not practicing what you preach here. You better start getting serious. So I'm getting serious. And I wanted to share this with you because everything I experienced that I learned from informs the way I practice. And, I hope that the lessons that I'm learning about myself maybe give you something to consider. You might be like, this is boring. This is not what I want to hear about on Therapy Chat. So if that's the case, I hope you will enjoy my next episode more. But I'll be keeping you posted on how this is going. I hope that I will be reporting that I'll be feeling a lot better soon. If any of you are dealing with similar issues, I know you get what I'm saying. I feel a lot of responsibility to put out a podcast for you every week, and I try to make really good content, and I want to keep that going. So I have some really cool episodes coming up for you. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to be going down to DC to meet up with Kyle Davies, the author of The Intelligent Body. He and I talked back, oh my gosh, it's already been a year ago. In October last year, we talked, and his book is about chronic illness and chronic pain and its connection to emotion. I really value what he's doing, and I can't wait to talk to him tomorrow because we're going to do another podcast episode. We're going to record live. Well, we're going to record it in person in DC, and I'll publish it soon. And it seems like there's like a gap in putting together the information on holistic approaches to addressing adrenal fatigue and other somatic concerns. There are so many emotional issues that show up in body symptoms, and the symptoms are real illnesses. And there's a significant role that emotions play in, I guess you could say, exacerbating or lessening those symptoms. And that is what Kyle does, is he does coaching focused on, it's kind of, I guess it's somewhat energy healing. He can tell us more about it when I talk with him tomorrow, because now I'm going to want to get a little deeper into it now that it's my own body that I'm thinking of. But you can listen to our interview in episode 110 from last year, where he talks about his work and the connection between emotion and the body and symptoms and how you can heal. So that's something that I'm looking forward to bringing to you in a few weeks. But I was going to say that there's like these symptoms like adrenal fatigue, other health symptoms that are addressed with holistic practices, and fibromyalgia. There are many, many things. I'm not going to name, I don't know which ones exactly are caused, by emotional symptoms. I know that fibromyalgia does tend to have a link with trauma. So there's, these types of illnesses which aren't really well addressed in Western medicine until the symptoms reach a certain point. And sometimes then the symptoms are treated, but not the underlying cause. And then you have these illnesses. You have the nutrition work, you have the emotion work, and then you have kind of the body of research around around trauma and its impact on these illnesses, but I don't see those things all being put together in one place. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just too many things to be in one book or one approach to treatment. But obviously, when you're talking about emotion, trauma is the cause of many emotional symptoms as well. So I'm looking forward to digging into that more with Kyle. And another fabulous interview that I'm going to be bringing to you next week. Oh my goodness. Last Friday, I talked with Deb Dana, the author of The Polyvagal Theory in Therapy. She is just lovely. And we had a beautiful conversation about kind of a small introduction to polyvagal theory and how it can be brought into psychotherapy. I have found polyvagal theory to be interesting, but very confusing to understand. And so I'm grateful that I got the opportunity to talk with Deb and break this down. Her book is wonderful. And I think that you're going to be really curious about it once you hear our interview, which is coming out next week on November 15th. And the week of Thanksgiving, we will have a replay episode. And then in December, I'll most likely do a couple of listener participation episodes, sharing with you some questions that listeners have sent in and my answers. And then we'll take some time off around mid-December till probably early January to regroup. I'll replay some episodes that I think you may have missed. Some of the older ones, people start listening now and there's over 150 episodes. They don't necessarily go back and listen to all of the old ones, but there are some real gems in there in the early conversations back when this podcast was called the Baltimore Annapolis Psychotherapy Podcast. So that's what's been going on. And I would love to hear from you if you have any experiences to share about dealing with a chronic illness and what you may have found helpful or what you wish was available, or even, questions about what direction to turn for more information. I may share those in a future episode if you contact me via SpeakPipe on the Therapy Chat podcast website. So that's it for now. Thank you so much, as always, for listening to Therapy Chat. I am doing this for you, and I'm grateful that you are there listening and learning and contributing and supporting. And I will be talking with you soon. Take care. Just another reminder that if you'd like to become a member of Therapy Chat, supporting the podcast while receiving fun member perks and being able to communicate with me one-on-one, go to patreon.com/therapychat. If every subscriber donated just $1 per month, Therapy Chat would be able to keep going strong indefinitely. Thanks so much for your support.
Thank you for listening to Therapy Chat with your host, Laura Reagan, LCSW-C. For more information, please visit therapychatpodcast.com.